Alrighty, we are recording session 35. Can you believe it? Ah. Alrighty. Let's get into it. Let's start with the retelling. Was anyone missing last session? I know last session was many weeks ago. We've had illnesses and such since then. Last session was the exploration of the northern forest, for those who need a refresher.
Don't think anyone was.
That's where that weird guy, that bandit guy, was there, right?
Yeah, there were like 12 bandit guys there, but a couple in particular that you interacted with. Alright then, let's go through the list. Everybody can give their retelling and earn their character points, and we'll get set up for tonight's adventure. Ed, why don't you go ahead and start off? I believe it was Shari that was on that adventure.
It has been a while.
You guys had taken a little day trip to the northern forest and gone to kind of like a little campground where some druids were. Kind of a public park kind of thing.
Yeah, I remember we encountered we encountered a group of people who'd stolen some money from Lorpin, I think, or something. And depending on who was interacting with them, we were either trying to guilt them into giving them money back, or make them feel better about themselves, basically. Char was mostly there for moral support, I think.
Yep, and you achieved it. The healing has begun. What did Shari get out of that experience?
She got to go outside and see stuff that wasn't underwater, which was nice.
And she spent a lot of time talking to the one druid about shapeshifting.
Oh, she was mostly wondering whether you could be fish.
And the answer is yes. If that's something she'd like to pursue, then that the reality is it is not impossible. Very good. A character point earned. Jackie.
So Bax was the one who sussed out this strange man, and it turned out he was part of the bandits that were bribing, or rather, were extorting Lorpin. And so we found it to be a good idea to reacquaint them so that justice would be served. But in this case, we decided to go with rehabilitation as a form of justice.
Yeah, extorting is a better term for it. Blackmail would also be an acceptable explanation of what they were doing. And yes, you did an excellent job of rehabilitating them and also getting the money back. Lorpin was, after all, with you for that, I believe. And your physical prowess was essential in the process. A character point earned. Kristen. I think, was it Francis that was out there?
Yeah, Francis was out there. Initially, before we ran into the bandit, Francis kind of was. I think there was an herbalist that escorted us around, and he found some medicinal herbs. And then once we did find the bandit, Francis and Kyleel played good cop, bad cop to interrogate them, get as much information out of them as we could. And then I think there was a point where I can't remember. I guess this was probably Francis and Kyleel again, but we helped convince the bandits to give the money back to Lorpin. Francis in particular helped by spouting out legalese that he had learned from Lorpin's trial and convinced them basically if they gave the money back, that would help them from becoming culpable for stealing the money, I guess, or get in trouble for that. So yeah, I think that was pretty much what Francis did.
Very good. And you did indeed get those herbs. You managed to get some very nice things collected. So hopefully those are on your character sheet. A character point earned. Tice. I think it was Kyleel.
Yeah, it was Kyleel. From what I remember is, I know he told to intimidate the bandit that was to get information. I know he was telling them interesting facts to scare the heck out of him. And basically, he talked to the bandit leader. I think as a part of it to like convince them to like get recordings and stuff for all this stuff to be able to get back at that one gang.
That's right. You had the recorder with you, didn't you? You got their testimony. Yeah. That's going to be interesting. All right. A character point earned. Troy.
Coffer went out to enjoy the sunlight or whatever, the sunny park day, and got to pick herbs as well. And going through and remembered as we were going, as all this bandit or whatever kerfuffle was going on, that he had the recording orb and that we should use it. And that was his main contribution was, hey, we should record this shtick.
And that recording is going to definitely be something that the Crimson Justicar values greatly in the final report that's delivered once you finish investigating the Blade Breakers. As the all fingers are now pointing towards the Blade Breakers as a significant part of all the troubles that have gone down. Well done, a character point earned. A tiny detail to recall for all of you is that the Blade Breakers are not just responsible for sending these guys to extort Lorpin, but sending them to extort Lorpin was their form of payment for a different service, which was delivering instructions to a group of cultists that ended up attacking the orphanage right at the very beginning of the first session. So there's a lot of bad going on here. And now, finally, Wampy. Possibly the most relevant character for the Northern Forest, given the Druid connection.
Yeah, so Wampy got to take part in the Druid ritual to grow a tree. And while everybody was picking herbs and stuff, Wampy had the opportunity to sit down and talk with the head of the circle there. And essentially add them to Wampy's growing list of pen pals. And has the opportunity, when Wampy has more the experience, to take the, what's it called, Whisper on the Wind, I think it is?
Yes, which I think I added to the private tutorials clubs. I'm going to go double check right now.
Yeah, actually, I think I do have that. I forgot that I got to do private tutors for Wampy. But, yeah, Wampy can now meditate as a frog and learn some new things. Wampy also really wanted to end up helping these bandits that we encountered, and had worked with the head of the circle there to convince them that there is another way of life to them out of these woods. And I assume they are now working with the druids there as part of their healing process.
Yeah, they're doing their best to contribute. They are not themselves druids by any means yet, but they're no longer robbing people, which is a step forward. And yeah, as previous players have mentioned, they gave up the money, which means they've given up their reliance on the idea of money, which didn't really matter where they were because there wasn't a lot of trade. But yeah, it's sort of they're reconnecting to bare necessities versus the sort of rat race wealth chase that was going on with them previously, and that had gotten them into a lot of trouble. So very good, a character point. So everyone has earned a character point. For those of you who have characters that are in school for that session, if they wanted to spend experience points, they may do so. If anybody needs to make any special school rolls, let me know right now. I just have to take a moment to clean up some cat walking over keyboard additions to the Private Tutors Club.
Zara is gonna attempt to learn esoteric channeling again.
Oh, excellent. Attempts to get, to pass the test to enter the class, right?
Ah, yes, exactly. Yeah. Let me look up what I need to roll for that. All right, cool. Difficulty 5, oral exam, cunning, and scholarship.
Meow. You want to take a little nap there? All right.
Not this time, but worth a shot. All right, I think that's probably it for my characters.
Right on.
I was just wondering, instead of our kids going to school, is it possibly for them to go on on a shopping day instead, instead of turning it into a whole adventure?
Yes. You can absolutely do that. Let's see. How will we mark that on the sheet? Probably play. Just mark it as play, and instead of getting the experience point for being in school, do whatever shopping you need to do. The city is in early stages of wartime preparation, so there is a flood of martial goods on the market for combat purposes. The city can provide at normal costs up to quality 6 items, and at double costs up to quality 8. Quality 10 items are not available without questing. Or 9.
And for stuff like staffs for wizards and stuff?
Yeah, that's not exactly martial stuff, at least not yet. The city doesn't have a standing army of wizards. So wizard stuff is at normal economic behavior, which is normal prices up to quality 4, double for qualities 5 and 6. And then, above quality 6, you would need to do some kind of a mission or crafting thing. But basic martial weapons have an exception. They're at a higher grade right now because the city is in a state of preparing for war. Once the city is engaged in war, that's actually going to reverse, and it's going to become even harder to get martial gear. But right now, in the early stages, it is easier. After all, this is a city of merchants, and those merchants include speculators, and all those speculators are looking at their numbers and charts and saying, yeah, investing in weaponry is a good investment right now.
Okay, because I was trying to figure out how much, because if you add capacitor and battery to thing, how many would you have to add that to the amount of successes, like per above the quality?
I'm going to say that, what you'll want to do then is you'll want to just reduce the quality by whichever one you're getting. Like, if you're getting 2 of them, reduce the available quality by 2.
Okay, so currently without it is max 6, but if I wanted to get both, I would get max 4.
Right. And because it's above quality 4 total, it's quality 6 total, you'd be paying double. Yeah.
Which is 12 successes then? No, that's 8 successes.
6 times 2 is 12. Well.
Oh, total. I thought because I.
Yeah. No. Okay. That's true. So it's 4 and then double the extra 2. That's fair. So yeah, 8 total. Yes.
For the tests for the universities, you don't get pips from your spellbooks, right? I think I've already asked this, but I have since forgotten.
That is correct. You do not get pips from your spellbooks. You can, much as Tice is doing right now, create a magical focus, like a wand or a staff that you could get pips from. But that would be for actually casting a spell, pips. If it's like a scholarship test.
It is a scholarship test.
Right, that wouldn't help so much.
I now have 5 in scholarship, but I just wanted to increase my odds because it actually is kind of difficult.
Yeah, the idea is that they want you to prove that you have some scholarship ability before you step into it. That we are so Ed's been working on a really nice rework to the really the whole skills and properties and power system that I think looks really nice. So there will in a future iteration, probably the next adventure after we get done with these kids, there's actually going to be an Arcana skill. And I think on a lot of these character sheets, as these characters transfer over, we will be migrating some of their scholarship skills into that, or just copying it and saying, like, okay, your scholarship counts for both now. Just put it in both columns. But for now, we're using scholarship as the stand-in for that. So,
in that case, I would like to roll to get into a class.
Go for it.
Want to finish Spell Hacker, but I can't do it unless I get into the class. Oh!
Looks like you buried the needle. That class required a 5, right?
Yeah.
There you go.
Pips have nothing on dumb luck.
Let's hope those dice keep favoring y'all. Does that take care of everybody? Fantastic. So, what adventure would the kids like to go on? And just to refresh what your options are, you can investigate the Bladebreaker Criminal Syndicate that you now have like all arrows and fingers pointing at as being responsible for a bunch of bad stuff. You can investigate Miss Mabel, who continues to sneak out at night and come back with fancy new clothes. You can investigate Henri's dream, which you've had a lot of hints and pressure might be something worth doing earlier rather than later. You can upgrade the Orphanage, which really isn't going to help you guys a lot now because we're kind of at the end game. You can make friends with the Pebble Street gang, which isn't going to help you a lot because we're kind of at the end game. or you can start the actual end game to investigate the Shadow Man.
I'm down to do that Henri's dream thing if everyone else wants to do that.
I mean, we literally have our saying on invite to the moon as saying, so.
Yeah, I'm down with that.
Same.
Yeah, definitely down.
Yeah, it's fine.
Alrighty. This is probably going to be one of the most surreal and ridiculous, like, esoteric, crazy adventure opportunities that exists. So I advise you bring kids that have an array of social, intellectual, investigative, and supernatural abilities, because shit gets crazy on the moon. That's just me as the GM sort of advising my players. In any case, which of the kids is coming? Obviously, Andre. I mean, Kristen, your choice was made for you there.
Yep.
Tice, looks like you're bringing Elros. That's a good call.
You don't want to send a proxy? Someone to do Henri's stuff?
Yeah, he's too scared to go. He convinces someone else.
Someone check for me.
I mean,
I've got a question regarding.
Sure.
So, like, let's say I've got my psychic potential of 0 out of 0. What sort of game mechanics do I need to do in order to get that to a 1?
Did that character attend school the previous session?
Yes, but it was at SAU, and I don't know if that counts or.
You could change it from being SAU to being your private tutor.
That could be cool.
I believe your private tutor is your private tutor is the Faithanok Bard, Radiko.
Mm-hmm.
And Radiko has among the things that he can train is psychic potentials.
All right, let me do some bookkeeping, and then I believe Leica will be coming out to play.
Awesome.
Because Leica has a combination of arcane, psychic, scholarship, persuasion, good social and non-social skills.
In addition to training psychic potential, Radiko can also train your cunning, empathy, focus, perception, has skills training in performance, persuasion, and propriety, talent training in something called God crafting, and can teach you the spells Ancestral Power, Elemental Might, and Theme Song.
Cool. And I only need to spend the 3 experience points to get it to a 1?
Yeah, I think the first one you get for free. Isn't that part of it?
Yeah, but you have to give yourself 3 experience for because the sheet doesn't calculate that for you.
I put it in, and then undid it. So, what do I need to give myself 3 XP?
Yeah. The sheet doesn't automatically calculate it. We'll have that fixed in future sheets. Actually, I think the whole system for potentials is changing. The costs are going to be linear. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's going to be different on the next sheet for the next adventure. But for now, just give yourself 3 free experience and add that in. And then if you're going to spend additional experience to raise it higher, you may do so.
And then I have to spend 9 points in order to gain a talent, right? Or is it 10? 9 or 10?
Talents are 9.
Okay, and let's see.
If you're coming to the moon with God crafting, that's going to be awesome.
Genuinely thinking about buying it because that would still leave me 5 points left over. Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. Radiko teaches you how to use your psychic powers to create temporary gods in the astral plane and direct the beliefs of the people around you to feed those gods to create magical effects.
And I will spend a smattering of points, probably my remaining points, performance for that.
Awesome. All right, looking back here at the list, I see, okay, so we've got Anre, we've got Elros, we have, Chrysalizar. That's a good call. Chrysalizar is a very versatile character. Wampy, of course. That completely makes sense given you got the invitation. Jackie, I'm going to go ahead and mark on the spreadsheet that Leica is the one coming.
Yes, thank you.
And then Ed, which of your characters would you like to bring along?
I don't know. Let's do Mari.
Awesome. Alrighty. The day begins as many days before have. Grammy comes with some additional little treats. Miss Mabel makes a delicious breakfast with Grammy, and then packs up everybody who's going off to school. But there's one group of kids that have a date on the moon. Everyone's very excited. Of course, you're going at the invitation of responsible adults that everyone's met. So no one's particularly worried about your safety here. You don't need a chaperone. You're going to be going with one of the teachers from the university. The little halfling bard that has been teaching sonomancy to Mari. Is there anything you guys want to do before you go talk to the bard at the university and portal up to the moon? Any research you'd like to do into the situation you're about to get yourself? Any grown-ups you want to talk to?
I have one thing I'd like to contribute, and it's not really related to anything other than to say jazz sonomancy. That's all I wanted to say really badly. Can you imagine?
That happens to be this bard's specialization, is improvisational sonomancy. This bard is not super good at, because he doesn't have the dwarven organ for hearing the notes, so he's mostly been like kind of just trying out stuff, playing with the math. So it is very jazz in what this bard is doing. But instruments are not jazz traditional. He uses a specially designed lute with sound reflective mirrors.
How good is his slam poetry?
Most of his abilities are built around like stage stuff. Let me find him here. He can do minor illusion, stage lighting, and minor illusion wardrobe effects. So basically, he can control the lights on the stage and can adjust his outfit or the outfits of others using sonomancy.
Oh, nice. I guess I can go check. I'll see. One thing I'll do is I'll go see my teacher Cam before I go up there, just see if he has any tips and stuff about like the moon and like what to worry about its magic.
Okay. Is there any particular thing you'd like to ask Cam about the moon, or do you just want a general rundown of what the moon is?
Sort of general rundown. Also, like, I guess I'll explain to him what we're doing up there, like evolving the Moon King, like what to stay away from when evolving the Moon King.
Cam doesn't know much about the Moon King. What Cam knows is mechanically how the moon functions. Cam knows that the Moon King is, in addition to an accomplished wizard, like having significant intellect and magical knowledge, the Moon King is, or has made themselves into somehow a raw elemental kinetic of the elements of earth and air and life. In a sort of an arc, it goes from earth through minerals to life, and then through lightning down into air. And the moon functions because the Moon King is continuously using those elements to shape the moon's physical shape with earth, provide air through the magic of air, but just generating it so that it's breathable within the caverns that the Moon King has created, and has grown a forest inside those caverns that is maintained entirely by magic, since there is zero sunlight. The moon is not a situation where you're standing on the surface of the moon. The entirety of the facility is in underground caverns within the moon. There is only one room that he's aware of that has a window where you can see out of the caverns. And the Moon King keeps that window facing the planet, Talus. It's a big ceiling, like, skylight situation. But that's all he knows. That's how the moon functions. He says you'll be safe up there as long as the Moon King exists. If the Moon King ever stops existing or just gets bored and leaves, then the moon will cease having breathable air, all of the plants will die, and the tunnels will stop rearranging themselves. That last part might actually be helpful. Because the moon can be a confusing place, but that's your basic rundown. Cam does say that, obviously there are other people that know more about the Moon King in terms of, like, personality and having met and talked with him. So you might benefit from their wisdom, or you might want to just go on up there, because a lot of the people that deal with him every day are there on the moon.
Okay. Is there anything you want me to bring back from the moon?
Cam says, absolutely not. That place is terrifying. I do not want anything from there in my office.
All right. Well, I'm ready to go to the moon.
So what actually is Audrey's dream?
Right on. Kristen, do you remember the dream?
No.
Okay. I was going to let Andre explain the dream. So I'll tell you what the dream is, and then you can decide what you tell the rest of the party. The dream begins with you waking up in what at first you think is like the old Oakbrine Orphanage by the ocean. But then as you walk into the forest, it doesn't look like the forest. It's a real forest. Kind of like the northern forest, actually. It's that thicker, wilder kind of forest. You come to the place where the troll's nest was, but instead of a nest of trolls, it's a den of wolves with black fur. They're not the kind of wolves that are around Celebre. These are like a black furred kind of wolf. And there's little wolf puppies, 3 little wolf puppies down there. And then you find a farmhouse, but it's, again, not the farmhouse that you remember from real life. It's some kind of crazy, weird dream farmhouse. And the Moon King is sitting on the porch in a rocking chair next to a farmer who's also sitting on the porch in a rocking chair, and they're sharing a cigar, passing it back and forth. Inside the farmhouse, you hear a baby crying, and then the Moon King looks at you, and you find yourself above Celebre with 4 great pillars. A pillar of gold, a pillar of light, a pillar of steam, and a pillar of... Holy crap, I blanked on the 4th one. Oh, lightning. What am I thinking? Yeah. Light, lightning, steam, and gold are 4 pillars that you see rising hugely above the city. And as you sort of... your perspective falls down into the city, you see a doll, like a child's toy, in the middle of these 4 pillars, perfectly arranged. And then you wake up. What you interpret from that is up to you, and you may tell the party what you think you've dreamed.
So, I think that basically Henri has probably had this dream repeatedly, so it's kind of haunting him. So at this point, it's just burned into his memory. So he recounts basically, like, pretty much in perfect detail the dream, because it's literally just singed in his brain. He recounts the dream to everyone just to share that information. And yeah, maybe we can, if we think that it's worthwhile, we could use some of this information in some research before we head up there. I will preface that with Henri hates to research things and is not good at it. He's like, you guys can look it up if you want, but I'm ready to get to the moon.
There are 2 adults you know of who are available here on the planet that you know have interacted with the Moon King. One of them is Delterra, and the other one is the halfling bard who's going to be taking you guys to the moon. Beyond that, there's lots of people with lots of opinions.
Yeah, actually, now that I think of it, while Henri's not good at researching things, he could recount this dream to one of those people that actually is familiar with the Moon King, and they're probably older and more wise, and maybe might have some sort of historical connection or something that comes to mind. So I think he'll choose to go to Delterra if they're... Yeah.
Yeah, you guys have helped Delterra recover, and she's finally... it's been several days, so Delterra is finally actually moving around the university under her own power, mostly teleporting, but every now and then she's able to get her armor on and use that as her functional wheelchair to move around. She's not doing a lot of casting aside from that, but she's because she's still recovering her tax every night. But she is interacting with people again. She's talking to the teachers. There is a lot of demand for her attention regarding the war. So you may have to pass a persuasion check to get in to talk to her. She's not the one you need to persuade. She'll be happy to see you, but you're going to need to persuade the layers of sort of social protection that get wrapped around people that are involved in big political things. There's people whose job it is to turn other people away. A kind of political triage happens. You do have a diverse set of party members, though, so some good socializing could go a long way. And I think Andre is pretty good at socializing, too.
Yeah, so Henri will let everyone know, hey, I'm gonna go tell Delterra about my dream to see if they have any advice, if anyone wants to join.
This is a pretty easy one since you guys all need to go to the university anyway to talk to the bard, because the bard is at the university and that's your route to the moon. So you're not really going off track with this one.
Well, I got fancy new staff. If I want to test out, potentially, if you two of you hold my hands, I could could try casting improvising invisibility spell.
Oh yeah, you could try to sneak into Delterra's office. That's a fact.
I do feel like there might be some magical, like, defense to invisibility yourself all the way into Delterra's office, but it could be easy to get past the outside, at least.
Alrighty, so yeah, Ms. Mabel packs up your lunches. You guys all head off to the university. Tice, you immediately go to talk to Cam, and yeah, is everybody else going to wait till Elros is done with Cam, or are you guys going to go straight to trying to talk to Delterra?
I think we might as well try and get through without invisibility, and then we can always attempt invisibility after if that fails.
Right on. So there's a lot of different ways you can approach this. If you go straight to the office, then you'll be dealing with some basically messengers and offices from the palace themselves. So do you want to talk to palace messengers, or do you want to try going through some other route, such as maybe Delterra's brother or anybody else? One of the department deans of the school.
Are there any service routes?
There is, yes. There are, especially since she's not using magic to take care of herself right now. There is a cleaning team and a catering team that are currently given permission to go up there.
Yeah,
disguise yourself as caterers and go deliver her lunch.
Yeah, I feel like that's a true Henri fashion, is to just crime his way into this situation. So he's definitely interested in going that route.
Alrighty. There is an official kitchen in the university's cafeteria, which is where the food is being prepared. It wouldn't even be lunch at this point. It would be breakfast. You'd be delivering Delterra's breakfast.
Henri looks around to see if people are wearing a uniform.
They are, yes. Since the university does not typically do breakfast deliveries, a separate catering group has been brought in, and they do have uniforms, and they're very proud of themselves. These are expensive services that they provide. There's very much a yes chef kind of energy to these people.
Nice. Yeah, he's going to kind of look around to see if there's like a locker room or break room or somewhere where there might be extra uniforms lying around.
The locker room is for the general, university staff cafeteria uniforms. It does not have the uniforms of the catering team. You would have to acquire one from a unconscious team member or something.
How odd would it be if he wears the regular uniform?
It would be pretty odd. The people who wear the regular uniforms rarely actually leave the kitchen. They basically prepare food and put them on trays, and students come in and scoop what they want off the trays. There's not a lot of direct interaction between them and the rest of the university.
I definitely don't want to unconscious someone. I feel like that's a bit much. They don't deserve that.
don't deserve a break, a nap, a rest. Very busy.
You do have other routes other than this one to try to get in, and you have other party members that may have skills to help you.
Yeah, I think he'll basically leave and let everyone know, like, this route doesn't look too good. Any other ideas?
The floor is open. I won't say no wrong answers, but the floor is open.
I mean, have we tried talking to them? Just tried to talk our way through.
No one's tried that yet. There are two.
Let's try that.
There are two people you could potentially talk to. One of them is a messenger from the palace that's basically stationed outside her office, acting as a triage officer to make sure only important people get in to talk to her. And the other person you might try talking to is her brother. Technically stepbrother, but he would recognize you guys because he was there when you managed to wake her up from her coma.
Yeah, the brother seems like the best bet because then at least he can, I assume he has ready access to his sister. Let's do it.
Alrighty. Her brother is the Dean of Alterations, and can be found in his office. You do not need a persuasion check to get in to see him, as his job is to talk to students, particularly about alteration magic. And so, you're in, and he recognized you immediately. It's like, oh my goodness. Good to see you all. I hope your studies are progressing.
They are.
For those of you who are not students, I hope your studies are progressing.
I guess maybe Henri isn't studying things, although I guess you can study fever.
Henri's got a library pass, I think.
Yes. Yeah, so Henri will say, hi, we're hoping to speak to Delterra because we have, we're on our way to meet with the Moon King. We have an audience with him, and before doing so, we wanted to share a dream that I had with her to see if she might have any information, but we wanted to see if you could help escort us in to see her.
He says, normally I would decline such a request because she is actually engaged in truly important work to keep the city safe, to keep really the whole continent safe. Like, I know that, like, a lot of adults probably don't talk to you guys about some of the serious stuff going on in the world, but there is a war brewing, and it's going to be a bad one. And I feel like you kids deserve to know the truth of that. But if it's about the Moon King, she's one of the few people I know that advocates the Moon King as not dangerous, which is very strange to me, is very strange to a lot of people. But she has more experience with the Moon King than almost anyone else. I will consider that request. I may also be able to offer you some counsel, but my counsel would be sort of inferior. So yeah, go ahead and tell me what it is, and I will see if this is something that I should bring to my sister's attention. This is going to be a persuasion roll, but you can narrate how you're going to persuade. So there's lots of different angles you could take on this.
So I think what he's going to do is basically recount the dream, but do so in kind of as theatrical, I guess, and nightmarish. More make it sound as ominous as possible.
All right.
Yeah, so that's kind of the angle that he's going with, just trying to like manipulate the dream so that or the retelling of the dream, so that it's as ominous as possible, without really like stretching the truth of the dream itself.
Sounds like a cunning roll to me.
That does sound like a cunning roll. It's a cunning plus persuasion.
So, yeah, this probably doesn't count as a negotiation. Does it?
No, not really. He's not. It's not like you're trading something for something. He's just trying to decide if this is more important than the current efforts being made to win the war against Aphthis.
All right, there's my roll.
From his perspective, it's like Aphthis might have flying pyramids over the city, like firing curses and sending undead swarming over our walls. On the other hand, the moon is just madness. So, yeah, it's a strange kind of math he's got to do. Okay, that's a pretty good pile of successes right there. He says, okay, I will take you in to see her. It's going to be a very brief time that you're going to be in there, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to distract the palace guard to give you guys some time to talk to her. Since your time with her is going to be limited, I'm going to tell you what I immediately understand from your story just right away, without needing any kind of special Moon King knowledge. Those 4 pillars you describe are the 4 angles away from life magic that elements flow in. And he starts giving you a quick lesson on the elemental planes. He says, when drawing energy from the elements, there are these 3 rings. One of them goes around, and it's got fire, and then it's got magma, and then it's got earth, and then it's got slime and ooze, and then water, and then the water goes into clouds, and then air, and then the air turns into smoke, and it's back to being fire. And that's the primary elemental ring. But there are 2 other rings that go, it kind of make a sphere out of all of the elements. And those rings rise up from any of the base elements. So let's take the one that goes from fire again. It rises up from fire into light or radiance, and then it arrives at life or positive energy, and then it becomes steam and drops down into water, and then from water it goes into salt, and then death or negative energy, and the death turns into dust and rises back up into ash, and rises back up through the ash into fire again. And that creates another circle, another ring. And then the third ring, it's a similar thing. It would go from earth into metal, so that's where your gold pillar is, and then into life, and then it drops down from life into lightning, which goes into air. The air goes into vacuum, into death, and the death goes into dust, back up into earth. And so those 3 rings build the elemental planes, and there are points where 2 rings intersect. At no point do all 3 rings ever intersect, but there are places where 2 rings intersect, and those are the primary elements: fire, earth, water, air, life, and death. And if you look at life, the 4 directions that can be gone from life are those 4 pillars. The gold pillar is clearly the minerals and metal that heads towards the earth element. The lightning pillar, the lightning that heads towards the air element. The steam pillar, that's heading towards the water element, and the pillar of light, pure radiance, that's heading towards the fire element. Why those pillars are in your dream, I don't know, but I immediately recognize your description of them as being those 4 directions that move away from life, or maybe move towards it. It's hard to interpret a dream. Beyond that, I can tell you that the wolves with predominantly black fur are very common in Talus. And which is very far north. That's about what I know from your dream there. I'm sorry it's not really interpretive, it's just fact-based, but that's what I can give you. And I'm going to go and I'm going to see if I can buy you some time. So what he's going to do is he's going to distract the other people and give you about 4 questions worth of interacting with Delterra before you guys have to go. 1 for each of your successes.
That's awesome.
Is there anything else you want to ask him? Because asking him questions is free and not using up time.
Do you have any hunches as to what the doll represents that was in the center of the pillars?
He says, I mean, if it's at the center of the pillars, then it might represent life, as that is what is at the center of those 4 elements. I don't know what a doll would have to do with life. I'm sorry about that. I hopefully he's not saying, like, bring a doll to life. We really don't need any more problems here in the city. It does worry me a lot that portion of your vision was like you flying in the air over a darkened Celebre at night. Your imagery from that was really haunting, and I'm really concerned that the Moon King might be trying to do something to our city. So that would be... The timing would be terrible. Even if the Moon King wants to help us, its version of help is not great.
Well, I appreciate all the information you had to share. I don't have any other questions, but maybe one of my companions here does before we head to Delterra.
I think at this point, Tice, your character, can have rejoined them. They've spent a lot of time here, and Cam's information was pretty quick.
He found out a lot of fun information about the moon.
You did find some information about the elements that are used on the moon that you might be of use to the party.
Yeah, I'll tell them about there's 4 pillars in the elements that they use to like keep the moon maintained and stuff, like the earth, the wind, life, and fire.
He doesn't use fire.
Oh, water. I mean,
Doesn't use water either.
Oh, he doesn't. Oh, I totally blanked out there for a second.
Yeah, what Cam told you was that the Moon King personally has power over an arc of elements that goes earth, metal, life, lightning, air.
Oh, yeah. I'm just so used to having all the other elements added to it. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's from what he knows, that's where it stops. The Moon King has no power over fire or water or death or any of their interrelated things. It's just that one arc that goes earth, metal, life, lightning, air.
That's pretty cool.
And possibly relevant. Alrighty, well, if nobody has any further questions, then he's going to take you to Delterra's room. And he fast talks the sort of the politician that's outside, and just opens the door. It's very hard for this guy to politely decline for him to visit his sister. But he opens the door, lets the 6 of you in, closes the door, and begins basically just running political cover for you. There's sort of a social tank. And Delterra's in here. She is at a desk. A chair has been specially made for her to sit at a normal height desk, but it's got like a little stair step to help her get down when she's not using magic to get around. You can see she has crutches leaned up against the desk, indicating that she is still limiting her use of magic somewhat. But she is looking a lot better. There's a lot more color in her cheeks, and she is scribbling away at a parchment while a illusion of somebody in like full plate armor with a sniper rifle strapped to their back is talking to her, and she is looking up from her notes and like nodding occasionally and being like, "Okay, good, thank you. I will pass this report along. Good job out there. And when you need extraction, push the 2 stones together, and I'll come get you." And the illusion dissipates. She turns to look at you, because she definitely heard you guys come in. Says, "Oh, my rescuers. How did you manage to get in? Wonderful to see you again. Bearing in mind that you have essentially enough time to ask 4 questions, what is the first question that you would like?" And you can consult with your friends. We'll assume you guys consulted on the walk down to the room as to what questions you want to ask, given the limited time.
Yeah, so my plan was that I would recount the dream to her before asking questions. Do we have time for that?
That'll take up one of your questions. She may have some comments about it, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that might be important context. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So I'll start by just saying, hey, Delterra, you are looking a lot better. I hope you're feeling well. We know that you're very busy working on important things, but we're on our way to see the Moon King regarding some dreams that I've been having, and we've been called to visit him. So I'd like to share with you a recurring dream that I've been having, and hear from you what your take on that is. And then I just have a couple questions, and then we'll be on our way.
Okay.
And yeah, so he basically shares the dream, maybe not with the same embellishments as before, just as he remembers it.
Right on. She listens very carefully, and then she has a similar comment. She's like, "Well, I recognize the elemental pillars, for sure. So there's some reference to life. Are you familiar with how the Moon King got his elemental abilities?"
No.
So a long time ago, the Moon King visited this very, very building when I was just a baby. You get a sense she's going to go on to an explanation that's basically going to chew up a second question's worth of time. Are you okay with that, or do you want to stop her and try and get more specific information?
I feel like it might be better to ask more targeted questions. So I think I'll let her know, hey, you know what? We have access to the library. I hope and assume that maybe some of this stuff is documented there. So I don't want to waste your time and have you recount something that we can just go and study.
I see. As my brother's running cover for you, is he? Very well. Well, I'll respect your time. What would you like to know?
All right. So as an aside to the group, I'm assuming we might want to ask some questions specific about certain things that were in the dream.
You said that the doll was very up in the air, right? We have an idea about other things, but the doll was very ambiguous.
Yeah, there's the doll, there's the wolves, but I don't know what that might be interesting. And then the Moon King was sitting on the porch with some dude smoking a cigar, and there's a baby crying. So that I feel like those were like the three key things from the dream that we don't know anything about.
The baby was clearly Delterra, and it was a distraction. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, those sound like the 3 points, right? We basically got a decent amount of context on the other stuff, however accurate it was, but it seems like that's been proven 3 times now. The pillar information, at least.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess we'll start with the doll and then work our way back. So yeah, well, I'll ask her, okay, well, your brother gave us some information on the pillars, and that was super helpful, but I'm wondering if the doll that was located in the center of the pillars is of significance, or if you might have any ideas of what that might represent.
So I don't recognize the doll as anything specifically from the Moon King's history, but I can tell you that the Moon King is not good at metaphor. The Moon King generally, when presenting information, presents literal information. So the doll very likely does not represent anything other than an actual physical doll.
Okay. Which that actually kind of maybe answers some of the other questions. Those wolves were maybe actual physical wolves, possibly meant to represent Solace. And then
Again, and I just want to sort of remind you, like, literal things. Like, if the Moon King shows you a wolf, it's probably not the idea of wolves. It's probably a specific wolf he met one time. He probably knows the wolf's name in wolf. Just sort of, yeah. Throw metaphor out. You're dealing with literal information.
It's literally actually the wolf, yeah. And then the farmer is some farmer that he met, and the baby is some baby.
And the cigar that he shared with the farmer is probably a literal cigar that he literally shared with the farmer. Yeah. Which is, again, why I think you would be very, very well advised to research how the Moon King got his elemental powers.
Okay. Yeah, I guess in that case, then might as well eat up a question to hear from her, and then we can always research more if we need to. But at least we can hear from her.
Okay, you've got time for 2 questions left. So if you want to use one of them, she can tell you the story of how the Moon King got his powers.
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So she says, years ago, when I was a baby. Although I had started using magic, but I hadn't learned to speak yet. So I was communicating with magic. I would open my cantrip, and I would change my emotions to represent the things I wanted. And some of the wizards actually had learned to understand me. When I was hungry, I would focus on being hungry and show them my cantrip of hunger. And they would tell my parents, like, oh, she's hungry. And we had some limited communication that way. And then the Traveler came. He was not called the Moon King back then because he did not yet reside on the moon. But the Traveler came, and the Traveler could speak to me in magic fluently without anyone needing to translate, which was, to me, as like an infant, just amazing. Like, finally an adult that understands me. Anyway, the Moon King had come to seek power and ability, not on his own behalf, but on behalf of a group of kinetics that were trying to assemble a book of all of the elements. And after doing some research here at the university and taking me on a field trip along with some other students to the elemental planes, and letting us actually see how our thoughts shifted reality in real time, which was very educational. He dropped us off, left, and went to the Northern Forest, where he unfortunately killed a lot of druids. They also killed a lot of biokinetics, and they stole the biokinetics book. But somewhere along that confrontation, he met the head of the biokinetics guild, a powerful biokinetic who wielded life magic at an extraordinary level of proficiency. And rather than fighting her, he somehow convinced her to become his apprentice. And she joined with them. They went and found other books. And from those other books, he taught her to not only be a biokinetic, but to also wield the magics of earth and air. And once she had acquired that mastery, it didn't exactly kill her. He did something worse than that. He broke her into pieces so he could absorb those skills. And then he did something that I don't think anyone really expected, which is that he took what was left of her soul and put it into an infant. Something that you'll need to understand when you're talking to the Moon King is the Moon King very much believes in equal exchange, not out of a sense of fairness, but out of a sense of weight. The Moon King doesn't want to be heavy, so if he acquires too many things, he'll give things away as presents to keep his weight down, if that makes sense. It's very hard to explain. It's something you kind of have to feel out, because the Moon King is doing a kind of math that is beyond... It's not that it's beyond our understanding, it's that it's beyond the ability of our eyes to see the numbers. I'm certain if we could see the numbers that we would understand, but the alteration to our eyes to be able to see the numbers seems to cause us to not be human anymore. And that's what happened to his apprentice. He altered her eyes so she could see the numbers. She became his apprentice and just willingly stood there and let him kill her to steal her powers, and then put her soul into a baby. In any case, you might be familiar with who raised that baby, because it was Pelledia. Found the child and built a whole orphanage around it, and I believe your matron, the Miss Mabel, is following in Pelledia's footsteps with raising you guys. So you come from a similar lineage, which may well be why the Moon King has sort of focused on you. I have no idea what the specific task the Moon King is asking of you, but I will just let you know that the Moon King is not the monster a lot of people think that he is, but also not really human either. You kind of have to think of him in a different way. Arrange your mind a little bit differently to understand what you're working with. In any case, that baby probably has an extreme amount of elemental power. And I got reports from a Crimson Guard operation that happened the night the moon fell that would indicate that somebody matching the description of that baby has awoken and is roaming the forests north of Celebre. Very near the Troll Mountains, too. She seems to be up there doing something. Probably is near the tree that used to be Pelledia.
I really hope that it's still like a baby wander.
It is not. She is. She's grown up quite a bit.
Okay. And I'm guessing Daltera doesn't know who that is, since she's referring to them with such ambiguity.
Unfortunately, no. I mean, I know that they exist, but it looks like the mining cooperative had locked her in a magical box, and that kept her off of our radar for a very long time. So I don't really have good information or intelligence on what she has been in the interim period. But what she is now is a very powerful biokinetic, and her abilities seem to be bleeding into the other elements.
Yeah, meta-wise, where are we in the timeline? Is she out?
Yes.
Okay, so
we
we've
are.
we've already let her out.
I can tell you how many days she's been out. She's been out for 11 days. No, I'm sorry. 19 days. She's been out of the box for 19 days.
This was like our party, some other party, I think, where there was a crazy mission to extract this. There was like a caravan carrying the magic box or whatever.
Well, no, we were in Bone Pillar, right?
No, you were in Baron.
Baron,
Yeah, that was
sorry.
the one with
Wrong.
the holy well or whatever, the holy thing where everyone was going to get cured and stuff. We basically gnome doored our way into the box.
Yep. There was they were saying there was a magical fountain that was curing the plagues, but it was actually her trapped in a box.
Yeah. What party was that again?
That was I was playing Althorn. I believe Troy, your Anna character, was there.
Yeah, we were all in Baron, so Vale was there. And
Jackie was playing as Cantor.
Okay, yeah, that would have been Nico. My Althorn, Nico, Einhard.
Yes, yeah, that group.
it was right before we went and did the like shadow fight. I don't really know what to call it other than like the shadow fight. It was the sequence before the dark kite stuff.
Yeah, and the way the party resolved that situation is they rallied the people of Baron in an insurrection. Ended up in a big fight in which a chronomancer showed up to try and fight alongside Baron, and something happened where Kristen, actually, I think you shot an arrow at the guy, and he had to like rewrite his own past, which caused a time elemental to show up and just eat him. It wasn't specifically a time elemental. It was quantity. It was the elemental quantity.
I was trying to remember the actual thing. Like we brought a really bad thing because of that, or he did technically.
Yeah, he woke up something really bad, really bad for supernatural creatures. It's actually quantity's not a problem for normal mundane mortal creatures. But in any case, that's sort of the history of that. One question left before you're going to have to skedaddle.
All right. Tice dropped a question in chat. I think that makes sense since Henri doesn't know how to interact with the Moon King. So, Delterra, we're headed to the moon. What advice do you have when it comes to interacting with the Moon King?
Don't try to ask for things. If you ask for something, the Moon King is going to take something from you, and the Moon King's not going to ask what he can take. He's going to balance his ledger by giving you something and then taking whatever he wants. Instead, try giving the Moon King things that you're willing to give up, and let the Moon King bestow upon you whatever the Moon King feels is fair. This is a far safer way to interact with the Moon King. And I think the reason a lot of people think of the Moon King as this terrible monster is because they keep asking for things and not understanding the exchange. But if instead of asking you just give something, you'll get something beneficial in return. And you'll have far fewer negative consequences from the gifts than if you were to try and ask for something specific. I know that doesn't necessarily help you when you're trying to get something specific, but that's my advice to you. my advice to you is don't try to get something specific from the Moon King, because you never know what the cost will be.
All right, thank you. That is good advice. Henri starts like looking around, trying to see if there's anything he can take from Deltera's room to give to the Moon King. Kind of jokingly, but like he's also just thinking like, well, let me see if there's anything I can grab before we head up there that I could potentially give to him.
Deltera lives in a state of kind of luxury compared to a lot of the other teachers. You do know that because of some of the patent violations that were committed against her when she was a kid, that she managed to get a huge settlements from various lawsuits, and not just settlements, but actual like court ordered payments and stuff. So she does have a fair amount of wealth. So if you would like to steal some expensive item, you may attempt it.
Yeah.
Would it make more
Let's say
sense to give
template.
something that's meaningful to you to the Moon King?
There isn't like just random magic artifacts lying around. If that's what you're looking for, that there really isn't any of that. She is highly unreliant on tools. She has for a very long time kind of been her own source of support, and so she doesn't carry a staff. She doesn't use wands. She does pretty much everything herself. And that kind of self-reliance has benefited her a lot. But when her magic gives out, like it has recently, it does put her in a bad situation. But yeah, there's no magic artifacts, but there is generally expensive stuff if you want to steal, like a pin set or something.
I think for now I won't do that, but I am in the back of my mind thinking of what I could potentially give the Moon King. So Henri thanks Deltera for her time and says we'll be on our way. We'll get out of your hair.
All right, so you open the door, and her brother comes in for just a moment, and gives her like a little thing of bread just to snack on. Reminds her like don't forget to order food, and heads on back with you guys, and you're back out in the university. You can further your research, or you can go talk to the bard.
Is there maybe an opportunity to tag team that? Because I'm not great at research, but I could talk to the bard.
Well, the bard is your route to the moon. So once you're talking to the bard, you're moonward bound.
Got it.
Yeah, that's just starting the engine.
Well, Henri's like, you guys can research if you want to, and I can tag along, but I might be not. I won't be of help probably.
And you have gotten a lot of good information.
Bumpy's good with going to the moon now, I think.
Yeah, moon sounds good.
Did you want to follow up on your idea of bringing something along as a gift?
Yeah. How about...
You do have like a major trade city with almost any imaginable finished goods available for you to purchase.
Yeah, I'd like to... Maybe it makes sense to just quickly run by the town square or whatever gift shop.
Yeah, the marketplace is always open.
Yeah, maybe there's like a snow globe or something. I don't know. I'm kind of joking, but like basically, like I'm not necessarily looking for anything in particular. Although I do think, I don't know if this matters, but like if I can find something kind of heavy.
Okay.
That's obviously reasonable enough for Henri to be able to carry on his person. Just in case, because the weight, I'm not sure if literal physical weight plays into it, but that's what he's taken away from what Deltera said about the exchange with the Moon King. So he's kind of going to be looking for something heavy.
Right on. And you're going for something physically heavy, not like power heavy or philosophically heavy.
He's literally just taking that so literally and just like physically heavy. Is what he's like.
You can't. I mean, if you want to like go all out, you can just go buy an ingot of metal.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
We have our weight equipment.
Yeah, we also have,
Oh, you cut out.
sorry, I was going to say we also have that rope that can make it very easy to carry for us.
Oh, nice.
So we
Yeah,
can get
don't offer
something
the rope.
ridiculously heavy.
What
And
were
then
the
get the
weights for it? Wasn't that Bax's workout equipment?
Yes.
Yeah, just workout equipment.
Which is currently allowing you, if you stay home at the orphanage, you can train up your vigor all the way to 5. That's what the that weight
holy
set is doing.
It's also the enjoyment that is, like, just ask him and see what he'll take. Like, that's always the option.
That is an option.
I mean, what would he take?
Tice, you had an idea?
I was wondering how much. Did we determine how much those memory globes cost? The ones that we could record stuff into.
Oh, the recording.
Because I was thinking of taking it to one of the psychics and basically taking some of our most fondest memories and recording it into the globe and offering it as a thing to the Moon King.
I think we need those for evidence, though, right? Like, one's still confiscated from us,
Well, I was saying,
and the
just
other
gonna
one we
purchase
need. Right?
Yeah, the last time you guys needed to make one, it took hours, which you don't really have today.
I think that. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
not a terrible idea, though.
Whoppy might know about pastries and their impact on the moon, right? Because
Yeah,
Whoppy's
you might. You might know
right
that
in
that the specially flavored little wolf treats help navigate the moon.
Well, that, but also how pastries form like a means of diplomacy, almost.
Almost.
Because Whoppy has been writing letters back and forth with moon druids and stuff. Do you want me to roll something to see if Whoppy's learned that?
Sure.
Because it's not particularly relevant to Whoppy's things, but also Whoppy would be asking, like, just... It might come up in conversation.
Mari, did you have any particular take on how they should proceed?
I mean, I'm interested to go to the moon, but I'm a little intimidated about the Moon King. So I have no particular... I've got no particular agenda. I mean, I didn't expect to ever go to the moon, so I don't really have an agenda for the moon, really.
There is a very large presence from Thordil on the moon. So that may be something very exciting and interesting for Mari.
I don't know how everybody feels about we haven't used these, but I feel like they've just been forgotten. We do all have like those bangles.
Safety bangles.
Or bangles of Minor Magica, but it like they have somewhat of a sentimental but also magical value to them. But we all have them. Just as a thing. I think every character has one, right?
Yep.
Weird question. Can I make this an artistry roll? For the way that Whoppy, like, prose essentially elicits this fact to come out in random conversation.
Are you creating a piece of artistry?
Well, would artistry not apply to writing?
Well, in this case, this is you're checking your memory of something, right?
I'm mostly checking to see if Whoppy would have discussed it because Whoppy hasn't been. I haven't been writing out what Whoppy's letters are.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead and make a cunning plus artistry.
All right. Do I get pips for my set?
Yes,
Calligraphy
for your
set?
writing set. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you know of the cake making facility is that at some point, this bard that's going to be taking you guys up to the moon, convinced the Moon King that he did it. He doesn't need to destroy nations that might be a threat to it one day if it just delivers them cake, because when they get cake, they'll like him and not try to destroy him. So he won't need to. Basically, the bard saw a situation where the Moon King was going to try to be the one who gets the first strike, and headed it off by convincing him to make cakes. The Moon King, not knowing much about cakes, recruited some halflings to make cakes, and because the Moon King has essentially infinite wealth, a gigantic cake-making industry formed that now dominates a major section of the what is that area called where the halflings live? Over by the centaur areas.
Over by the wastes, on the way into the wastes.
Yeah. There's like a patch of farmland over there that's almost completely converted into generating the wheat and necessary to make flour to make cakes.
Oh, like the halfling territories over in Kylogan.
Whatever the name of that region is, it's turned into this massive cake making industry that the end results generally happen on the moon. There's this massive baking facility there, and yeah, it's become a sort of accidental economic transformation. The cakes are sent out to politicians, and diplomats, and people of note that essentially that the Moon King doesn't want to have to destroy, so he sends them cake instead so that they'll like him, so that he doesn't have to make a preemptive attack against.
But the Moon King would be unlikely to view gifts of cake as anything.
Given that the Moon King himself has a nearly infinite supply of cake, but it's not certain. Nothing is certain with the Moon King.
Nothing is certain.
It is an alien intelligence from outside of reality that found itself here and made a little nest.
I'm just trying to figure out how everybody's how to interpret this in Whoppy's brain.
We could go with the non-literal version of wait and do something else. Although, given that the Moon King is so literal, Henri's leaning towards literally just getting some sort of ingot or something, like a heavy thing of iron, and having that be what he brings.
There is another interpretation of literal that you could take on that.
Emotionally literal, heavy, emotionally heavy.
Emotionally, or there's all kinds of ways you can take the word the weight, but there's something that doesn't even relate to weight, where you could interpret an aspect of the dream literally.
Yeah, bring a carton of cigars. Also, I was wondering, could we potentially find out exactly what kind of things the Moon King has taken from people?
That is not something that you asked about.
We could either research that or ask his little bard of what the people he has taken from people.
That would be a good question to ask that bard. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to go ask the bard, be like, oh yeah, we was gonna grab a couple of things before we head up there, but I just want to know what kind of stuff like the Moon King takes from people.
The bard is on a schedule, so when you go to the bard, that's basically you're going. The bard's not going to wait around for you.
Okay, so we can't go pick up stuff if we ask him.
Now you've got basically one opportunity at the market to grab something, and then you're heading to the bard. So the question is, what do you want to get? Remembering that this market has pretty much anything you want.
You know what? I'm going to find the best tasting vanilla ice cream to bring up there.
Oh, that's Grammy's for sure. Go for it.
Yeah, I'm bringing ice cream up there.
All right.
So I'm trying to think of the best memory that we've ever had, and I think that's probably the best memory I can bring to the. Also, some cookies for good measure, because no one can turn down a Grammy's cookies.
Is this a character that hoarded all the cookies from everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, I think Henry's pretty much going to keep going with the literal weight interpretation and find some sort of heavy object while he's there.
Okay.
Maybe even just a heavy rock.
Could you go ahead and make a cunning plus investigation check for me, please? Difficulty 3. Okay, cool. Yeah. So yeah, they're like you can get iron ingots. You can fill a chest with iron ingots. It's not cheap, but it's because they could be used to make swords. Gold is also very heavy, but even more expensive. Rocks you can get pretty much for free. You can just go down to the docks and dredge some rocks up out of the ocean.
Yeah, I think basically Henri's going to take that magical rope somewhere down to the ocean and wrap it around whatever rock it can fit around. I don't know how long the rope is, but basically like find one of the biggest rocks that he can get the rope around, just enough to like tie the rope around it, and then carry the weightless, enormous rock with him. I'm not sure if that'll fit through the moon gate, but hopefully it does.
Well, in this case, you're not going through the moon gate because that would involve going to the palace. The bard is just going to ask a wolf to open a portal for you, so that should be fine.
Cool.
All right, so you have a big old rock. Cool. Alrighty then. I guess you guys all, with this rock wrapped in your magic rope, head on back to the university, and you go meet the bard. The bard is particularly happy to see Mari. He's like, shame we won't have any lessons today, he says, kind of chuckling because he knows full well that you have exceeded beyond his own abilities, and there really isn't much left he can teach you. Except for, how to play the guitar. And yeah, with a cookie to a wolf, the wolf howls, a portal opens, and you guys find yourselves standing in a cave. It's as caves go, it's not particularly remarkable, except for the vines on the walls, which caves do not usually have. But yeah, the bard says, "Welcome to the moon."
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for the escort.
Yeah. So we maybe next time we come up here at some point. I want to ask exactly what kind of stuff does the Moon King take from people?
Yeah, that is a thing worth being careful about. Let me give you an example. One of the druids here, a few years ago, was a Somnite druid. Of course, we don't really have them around anymore. But the sort of head of the Somnite druids disagreed with the sort of way things were going with the Inuites, and decided to approach the Moon King directly. And he told the Moon King, says, "I am a bear," and he meant to be threatening to the Moon King. The Moon King accepted that piece of information and said, "Well, then that must be true." And so the Moon King made him unable to shapeshift out of being a bear. The bear then essentially attacked the Moon King as a bear, and the Moon King found that to be interesting because the bear kind of took a chunk out of him. He says, "Very well, if you're going to take a piece out of me, I will take something from you." And so he took the ability for the bear to not be on fire away from him. Later on, through various negotiations, that was resolved. He was eventually given the ability to be extinguished, and much, much later was given back the ability to be a human again. But that gives you sort of an example. The Moon King didn't interpret the attack as an attack. He interpreted it as an exchange, trading a thing for a thing. And that is kind of frightening, because the Moon King can take things from you that don't necessarily make sense. It's never entirely clear how he thinks. But yeah, I cannot caution you enough. Be very careful. The Moon King is not going to have any of these sort of political niceties that you might be used to.
Did you ever accidentally give him anything?
No. I've been extremely careful to only ever give advice and to only ever accept behavioral changes. I met the Moon King at a bar. And at that bar, the Moon King was enjoying drinks. And in return for these wonderful drinks, the Moon King did not pay the bartender. He paid the drinks. He granted them life and sentience. There were little beer elementals walking around that bar for like a week.
Oh, that sounds funny.
Not for the beer elementals, it wasn't. In any case, that's when I kind of learned about the sorts of gifts that the Moon King gives. Probably my most famous play that I wrote is about a trapper in the woods, trapping wolves. And he pulls out his lute and leans against the vines and begins to tell you the tale of this trapper. Now, his tale is fairly long. I'm gonna shorten it. The trapper had a family, needed to feed the family, was setting snares for wolves. The family grew, and the trapper's ability to catch enough wolves to keep his family fed was strained. So the trapper started trying a bunch of different things. The Bard's Tale goes through a list of all the different things the trapper tried, including magic boots so he could run to the traps faster, better quality traps, and then eventually the story ends with the trapper going to various gods and praying to the gods to help him trap more wolves so he can sell their pelts and support his growing family. And when none of the gods could help, the trapper notices that the wolves are praying to the moon. And so he decides that if the wolves are praying to the moon to get out of his traps, maybe he should pray to the moon too. So he prays to the moon, and one night, out in the forest, checking his traps, the Moon King comes down to visit him. And the Moon King is accompanied by many of the wolves that the trapper has attempted to trap over the years. And the trapper beseeches the Moon King and says, please, will you help me? I need to feed my family. And the Moon King says, very well, I will help you, just as I've helped these wolves. As the wolves pray to me, I shall give you the same gift I give them. He says, well, what gift have you been giving the wolves? You've been helping them out of their traps? And he says, no, I have not. The gift I gave the wolves is that I allowed all the wolves that got caught in your traps to die. And so my gift to you is that I will not save you from these wolves. This is based on some true stories. I actually found several trappers and hunters of wolves that have had similar encounters with the Moon King. He doesn't protect his followers. He enhances them, and not always in kind ways. Look, I know you talked to Delterra, and I know that she has kind of a fondness for him, as like he was her first teacher, the first person that she was able to actually communicate with as a child. That colors her opinion, but he's dangerous. Just be really careful. Be careful what you say, be careful what you do, be careful what you give. And be extra careful what you take. You journey on. The moon, while it starts off seeming like these kind of boring cave tunnels with vines on the walls, actually opens up into some pretty awesome looking open chambers. They've got an entire apple orchard here on the moon. You do start to notice, though, that a lot of the corridors seem kind of stitched together. Like the rock doesn't perfectly line up. Almost like you're stepping through portals continuously that are just taking you from isolated cave to isolated cave all over the moon. It's very easy to lose your sense of direction, as sometimes 5 right turns gets you pointed back the direction you were facing originally, which shouldn't be true, but here it is. Space is very distorted. There is, as you were promised by Cam, a beautiful room with a skylight that lets you look upon the world. And there's a huge bustle of activity here. In this room, there are messengers literally running through the room, carrying scrolls and all kinds of things. There's a corridor that leads to a diplomatic community where diplomats from nations all over the world hold offices to communicate with each other. By and large, they are not communicating with the Moon King. and so you don't really have a long line for your appointment. You can kind of walk right in. They're mostly communicating with each other. The Moon King has forbidden military assets to pass through the Moon Gates, but messages are fine. And so the nations of the world right now, in organizing themselves to face Aphthis, are exploiting the Moon King's Moon Gates to deliver messages and missives that they don't trust magical communication to handle, or that they don't have the ability to communicate with magically, as really, like, only Einar and Celebre are powerful magic users. The rest of the world is still running on paper. Yes. You can see where Somnus landed. It is visible from space. In fact, from here you can see that Somnus is still glowing. Although at this distance it's very faint and doesn't hurt to look at. You don't feel the burning on your skin. But, yeah, it's down there and you can see it. And it's kind of scary.
I pat my clothes just in case.
As a general rule, anybody who does look at the planet, you're going to want to take 3 tacks to your composure, because it's a mix of awe-inspiring and terrifying what you're looking at.
Sorry, how much?
3.
Good lord.
I can see my house from here.
A lot of diplomats' first trips to the moon is their last.
I think Henri is going to be so laser focused on finding the Moon King that he doesn't look, if that's possible.
That's possible.
Is the bard still with us?
Yes.
Is he kind of escorting us directly to the Moon King, or is there a point where he stops?
Is, because the Moon King is his employer. This is the Moon King's personal bard.
Ooh.
He's been teaching Marius a side project to get some away from the Moon King time, to let himself calm down, because being the Moon King's bard is incredibly stressful. He's not there to entertain the Moon King. He's there to try to subtly manipulate the Moon King away from violence.
I wonder if he ages or not, the bard, or if he like.
The bard does seem like he doesn't seem young, but he doesn't seem to have any of the signs of fatigue that would come from someone of his age. Do any of you have the spell Deltera's Toolkit that you can cast to examine the bard?
Nope.
Cool.
I mean, I do.
You may cast it if you want more detailed information about the bard.
I'll save it just in case I need it for an emergency.
I did not hear all of that.
I'm gonna save it in case of emergency.
Okay, cool. Alrighty. And you arrive at the throne of the moon. The throne is it's a large, splendid looking throne made of completely mundane rock. There's no gold, no platinum, no mithril, none of the decorations that a vain king would put upon the throne. The throne looks less like it's a functional chair and more like someone described the idea of a throne to a child who sort of scribbled the idea down, and then an artist of incredible skill took that scribble and turned it into a masterpiece. The proportions are wrong, but the angles are perfect. It's smooth, it's decorative where there were little details and decorations, and it's gigantic. And One of the reasons that it doesn't need to be a functional chair is because the Moon King is not sitting. The Moon King is floating above it, possibly suspended above it by chains. The Moon King looks much like an emaciated monk. He's in a sort of a martial arts gi, but has no musculature to him whatsoever. He's completely just skin and bones. The skin sort of drooping on his face. Clean shaven, and a shaved head. Is wearing bracers, anklets, and a circlet around the sort of 5 extremities that come out from the torso. And each of these has, from the back of it, chains that go up to the ceiling that seem to be holding him up in the air, kind of like a puppet. You get the strong sense that this may not actually be the true entity that is the Moon King, but some kind of protrusion with which to interact with people. Almost like the Moon King is the moon, and it just sticks its hand in this guy's mouth to work it like a puppet.
Ah, like the 5 pillars surrounding a puppet.
All right. So Henri, by the way, is wearing his Moon King costume.
Cool.
Naturally. He'll kind of come in and he's got the giant rock strapped to his back. He'll just kind of like set that down and not really acknowledge it. And then he goes to address the Moon King.
All right. The Moon King turns the human portion of his head towards you. Although you do see at the sort of the chest of the gi, a little bit of the gi kind of opens in the chest, and you see what looks like a rip in his chest. Not of torn flesh, but of torn fabric, as though his skin is actually just fabric made to look like skin. And inside this tear, there is a glowing thread of multiple colors, just sort of scintillating with the entire rainbow, in the shape of an eye. Not a symmetrical eye either. It's like either a left eye or a right eye, like somebody's like real close to it, and you're not seeing the rest of their existence. And that eye is looking at you along with the normal human head above it.
Yeah, Henri kind of like, his glance keeps going back and forth between the eyes because he's not sure which eye to look at. And he'll say, I believe there's a task you're expecting of me, and I'm here to consult with you about it. Actually, are we here because was I actually called here?
I mean, you received the dream vision, and you got this sort of sense that you'd made a deal with the Moon King for something, and the Moon King was waiting for you to perform your end of the bargain.
Yeah. So basically what I said before. So I'm here to consult with you regarding our deal.
The Moon King says, "Do you have it?"
Henri kind of looks over at the rock nervously and then looks back at the Moon King.
When you look back at the Moon King, you see the Moon King's no longer looking at you. He's looking at the Bard. And the Bard is saying, yes, you pronounced that correctly. Bard looks back and says, we're practicing speaking with sound. It's something we're trying to move away from psychic communication and just talking with sound. So we're practicing that today.
Henri will say, I don't have it, but I do have something else. and he presents the rock to the Moon King.
The Moon King accepts the rock. It comes loose of the ropes and floats up to him of its own sort of accord. The rock starts sort of shifting in shape and falls from the sky into a pile of stone dolls. The Moon King looks at the pile and says, "Are these correct?"
I'm not really an expert on stone dolls, so I'll take your word for it. They're probably correct.
The bard looks deeply confused at the stone dolls. Master? I think that the stone could use clarity to display your intentions. This is carefully measuring out his request. He didn't ask for anything for himself. He didn't ask for anything for you. He asked that the stone be given a gift. And King looks and says, "Gift." He looks at you, Henri, and you basically, you have a chance here to try and guess at what the Moon King wants you to do, based on all the information that you've given. And if you guess wrong, the Moon King is going to tell you. And you get the feeling from all of your discussions with the Bard and with Delterra that being told what to do might hurt.
Yeah. Thinking. How many guesses do I have? Like, or is there an indication?
There's no indication. This is... None of the people you've spoken to have ever truly understood this entity. Everybody's just made their best guesses based on their experiences and successes. Unfortunately, adults have a tendency, when they accidentally guess right, to make up some reason why they were right, rather than research what really happened.
Okay, so I'm going to go about this conversationally. I'm going to attempt, before guessing, I'm going to try some conversation.
Okay.
That which you've requested of me is interesting, isn't it?
The Moon King kind of looks at the bard and says, "Not enough words." Looks back to you and says, and unfortunately does not speak with sound this time, speaks directly into your mind, and says, "Do you require information?" It hurts to hear this. Take 2 points of composure damage and 1 point of health damage as you bleed out of your ears a little bit. The words themselves are animals. As they enter your brain, they start to bite and fight each other.
Yeah, Henri winces and says, no, thank you.
The Moon King nods and returns its sort of posture to expectant waiting. The bard says, asking a question is like requesting a gift. Information to the Moon King is as real as the rocks that you brought.
No questions then. Henri's pondering what to say next.
The bard slips over to you and says, like, there's a trick I use. Instead of asking a question, I'll give him a piece of information, and then sometimes he'll tell me whether or not that piece of information is correct. So I can kind of hot-cold game it, if that makes sense. That way I'm giving him stuff, not the other way around.
Yeah, so basically state a fact, and then the Moon King will true false that fact.
Right. Particularly useful if you don't know whether the fact is true.
The doll is what you're looking for.
The Moon King smiles, says, "Correct. That is accurate information. Thank you." And it lifts one of the little stone dolls and hands it back to you. I say hands, it floats back over to you. It says, "You may have this in exchange for your correct information."
Henri reluctantly takes it. But, yeah. The doll is in possession of someone back where I came from.
The Moon King ponders and says, I don't see value in that information.
Daltera? All right. Thinking of other questions.
What does the doll look like? Or the dolls now? We see a bunch. I'm not asking this. I'm just looking at like.
Yeah, looking at the pile of dolls, go ahead and study them. Make an investigation. You know what? You've got time to do investigation plus focus if you want to.
So die less. But I assume it would give me more information on successes with focus versus cutting.
It'll give you different
Right.
information.
Sorry, was that?
It'll give you different information.
I'm really looking to see if these dolls look like something that I recognize, either like maybe as vaguely like Altera's or like the like child that was that the heart was put into her. That complicated story that's hard to describe in 3 words.
Yeah.
So I think I actually want to do cutting on that.
Okay.
I mean, can we hit it from different angles? Like, we're all here, we can all
Sure.
look
Yeah.
at them.
I sort of have an idea, because like anytime that the Moon King speaks, whatever in your mind, it sort of causes damage. I wonder if there's a way for me to make like magical sort of like magical earmuffs to sort of deafen his words so that they're for him to be able to hear without us causing brain damage.
You may attempt to do so. I already know what the answer is mechanically, but there's nothing preventing you from making the attempt.
Right, I'll try -2.
The...
I start eating one of the dolls, just chewing on it.
Yeah, it's a doll-shaped piece of rock. Vivian, you figure out basically that these are essentially it's a child's toy, except that these are not made of the correct material. They're made of rock. All right, Tice, you have worked out that you can create a little psychic barrier that will protect you, but the consequence of that is you won't hear the message. So
Well, I remember the message. Is a
No.
thing.
What,
Okay.
what causes the damage is the message itself. The message has teeth. It's a living thing. You can
Okay.
block it. So anytime the Moon King speaks to you, you can decide whether or not you hear the message. And if you choose not to hear it, then you don't take the damage.
Okay. Would not to like to distract thing, but I'm going to offer up the most happiest moment of I think our career in the our hometown or whatever is the cookies and ice cream to the Moon King. Be like, here's cookies and ice cream from Grandma. These have provided endless hours and joys into a community and brought us all together. And I would like to share this moment with you.
The Moon King turns to the bard and says, clarity, object, or memory. The bard comes over to you and says, the Moon King wants to know if you're just offering the ice cream or if you're offering what you know about ice cream. And I want to stress this. If you give him your memory of ice cream, you won't remember it anymore. You know what, kid? I'm just going to make the decision for you. This is object only. And the Moon King levitates the ice cream, and it flies off down a corridor. You don't know where it's going. But you may have caused the halflings to invent ice cream cake at some point in the future.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. In any case, the Moon King looks at you and says, I will not harm you for the next year. Thank you.
Excellent. You just ask away then. Start asking questions. I don't know if that counts.
Harmons.
He might not be able to answer the question since he promised not to harm him.
Ooh. That's true.
No. It's going to force him to use his words. His pronunciation is going to get so much better with all this practice.
It's all about practice.
He also has to stay here for the entire year so that he can practice.
Did anyone else want to take a look at the pile of dolls to try and glean any information from that?
Yeah, Henri's going to help take a stab at that. Is that investigation?
Yes, please.
So we'll investigation and perception.
You could do that. Yeah.
Mari can go help as well. Investigation and perception. Okay.
That's a fucking rock solid roll right there.
Let's see. Jackie, you used perception, right?
Yeah.
No two dolls are alike. Kristen, what was the aptitude you used on that?
Perception as well.
Okay, so you noticed the same thing. And Ed, what aptitude did you use?
Cunning?
Ah, okay.
I mean, I can use perception, but
No, yeah, well, they've already found out what the perception result is, which is no two are alike. With cunning, you notice that the stone seems to be representing the idea of toys, not necessarily dolls. Some of the dolls that you find are actually just like balls or jacks or other toy-like things. Some are figurines of soldiers. Some of them are, princesses in dresses. But in the pile of dolls, the overall theme here is toy. Presumably you share that.
Yeah, I share that with the rest of the group.
No, not joy, toy. Toy, toy.
Toy.
Do you want to take a stab at what you think the Moon King wants?
Well, he did confirm that he wants the doll, but I'm not sure if he interpreted that. That is what he confirmed, right? But he might have been interpreting doll, since this is just a pile of toys. Maybe his interpretation of that is different. But isn't that kind of what he confirmed?
Right. Yeah.
I think our question now is any toy or specific toy? Obviously, we are asking a question, but
Or if we link it back to the dream.
Would you like to make a statement? If the statement's true, he seems to give you more information.
The doll belongs to someone important.
The Moon King considers that information as... that will be true, eventually. I suppose there's value there. When it becomes true, I shall give you a reward. Was that a good clue?
Yeah, I'm just sorry. I'm thinking about what the next thing I might say is. I'm trying to make sure Henri doesn't have any more angry animals in his brain. But yes, the doll is something you intend to give to that person in the future.
A very true statement. Gold and glass. Yes. My granddaughter needs a toy. I have no expertise in this. You are a child. You have expertise in toys.
That is a true statement.
Truth for truth.
Any doll would do.
Sorry, just rolling a check for the bard to see if he's solved the puzzle. He has not. You said any doll will do?
Yep.
Inui considers this. He goes, oh, if that is true, then bring me any doll.
Henri looks down at the pile of rocks. Henri's gonna like rummage through the pile of rocks to look for one that kind of looks like a doll. Maybe the one that looks closest like the doll from his dream.
Did the Moon King not give you one of them back? Is that?
Actually, yeah, maybe I have one in my hand already. Yeah, I have the one that the Moon King gave me. Oh. Then okay, so I'll say, in that case, here you go. For your granddaughter.
Now, in Honore's mind, does Honore honestly believe that Inui's, and we're going to put some big air quotes on it, granddaughter, will like this doll as a gift?
I think he thinks that is true. Like, because he's like he's a kid, imagination. Kids play with crazy stuff. Kids play with cardboard boxes.
Actually, hang on. Can Wampy stone shape this into more of a doll toy?
Ooh, what are you thinking that you'll do to it? Currently, it is exquisitely detailed, but it is a single solid piece. What changes would you like to make to it?
Well, first off, probably make it lighter, and essentially turn it into something that might be customizable, where you could maybe detach pieces and create a new doll from other rocks or items. Exactly, yeah. It's potato doll, for example. And I would like to stone shape it so that is possible now. As well as just taking some of the heft out of it, because a child wielding around a presumably still heavy piece of rock is less fun than a lighter piece that could be easily manipulated.
Very good. Yeah. Do you? What ability are you using to stone shape?
I am using my basically just druidism.
Okay.
Just spend it on being able to stone shape here. Just something I do want for Wampy, so I think I am going to do that, if that's all right. Because stone shape's a spell. Right?
Yeah, that's a reasonable druidic thing to learn. You've been studying with a lot of moon druids, and stone shaping's a thing they do.
So I still roll, correct? When I
Yes.
do that.
It is, yeah. It's not a
Automatics.
not an automatic.
All right. Yeah, I could. I'm going to argue that unabashed applies here because I'm doing this literally in front of the Moon King.
Okay.
So I got a quick question before any
Yeah.
of this happens.
Go on.
So my observation was that they were all different.
Yes.
Do I notice any type of visual hierarchy among the dolls? Do they possess signifiers of class or status in any way?
Ah, an excellent question. Let's see. What was your result? Oh yeah.
Because maybe not any doll,
Yeah. So all of them are exquisitely detailed. These are not like these are not thrown together kind of pieces. Like there's like little like embroideries and carvings. Even though they're stone, there's like a lot of detail added. The faces are sort of people faces. Even
Do
the
they look
toys that are not-
familiar?
What's that?
Do they look familiar?
Yes, all of them look like people from out of Miss Mabel's stories, like Pelladia. In fact, one of them would not necessarily be familiar to you, but would be familiar to Henri, is one of the dolls has the face of that farmer. It's a kind of strange-looking doll, because it's like a man's face, but with like a pretty princess dress. But, yeah.
Is he referring to Pelladia when he's talking about his granddaughter?
You do see something that looks like Pelladia in there, yeah.
No, but is that who he is referring to when he's talking about his granddaughter?
No, he is not.
Okay.
He's misusing the term granddaughter because he doesn't know what it actually means. But he's referring to, and everyone else has kind of figured this out already. He's referring to the biokinetic that the baby that he put his apprentice's soul into, that grew up and became a powerful biokinetic, was trapped in a box and then escaped. Now that she's out, it looks like he wants to get her a present. And so he has consulted with children as to what the kind of present she would like.
Sounds like the present she might like is revenge.
Yeah, Isabel, if you give her a doll, will probably obliterate it, but that's okay.
Maybe you give her a knife-shaped doll.
I know this probably sounds cheesy, but I think one of the greatest presents a relative can give to someone is their presence and their support.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to literally be a doll.
Yeah, I'll just say that's the Moon King. I'll just I'll just say like a fact.
Okay. Moon King ponders that. It's interesting. I will trade you that. I believe you. I have no way of confirming that fact, but I believe you. And so I will trade it for this fact. I swore to her father that I would not involve myself in her life until she stands upon my doorstep. He was afraid that I would kill her the way I killed her mother. And again, he's misusing the term mother here. He's not literally the father and grandfather of these people. He's more like a... yeah, I don't know if there really is a word for it. It's a crazy
parasite?
Alien thing. He's a parasite, but he also was in command of them.
I mean,
very hostile.
You know what those fungus do to those ants, right?
Yeah, like that. That's kind of what this guy is to them.
He's still a parasite. It doesn't have to be... Yeah, he's an eldritch being.
Yeah. And her biological father of the baby he put her soul into was worried that Inui would break her the way he broke the previous apprentice. So they made a deal. And while smoking cigars, the deal was that Inui would not interfere with her in any way until she stands upon his doorstep. And it looks like Inui was trying to get around this by having Henri deliver her a gift as like an attempt to behave slightly more humanly. You suspect the bard may have a bit of influence in that. Something the bard said may have triggered this behavior as some sort of self-preservation mechanism, because she is quite powerful. But in any case, yeah, that's where you're at. The gift does not literally need to be a doll. It's actually kind of up to Henri what the gift can be. And I would like to remind you that you don't necessarily need to build it out of parts available here. You could ask the Moon King to take you back to Celebre, where literally anything is available in the market.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea because it'll give us some time to figure out exactly what we want to get, and then we're not limited to what's here.
I love the stone shape idea, but yeah, you have a lot of options. There's a lot of options on the tip.
Yeah, like, ultimately, whatever this is, I'm supposed to deliver it to the Moon King. Is that confirmed, or should I confirm that with him?
You might want to confirm that with him.
Once I have the doll, I'll deliver it to you, and my task is complete.
No, this is bad information. Incorrect.
Mari says, she's a life shaper, yes?
Moon King says, yes. What would you like in exchange for that?
Oh, nothing. I was just observing, Mari says.
Says, very well. Here is a piece of nothing. And he hands you a marble with perfect vacuum inside it.
Nice.
I say, well, thank you. That's kind of my... so if she's a life shaper and she's good at it, then maybe give her something precious that she can't already just will into existence. If she's really good, then stone dolls is not going to help. Definitely metal dolls won't help.
I'm so glad Mari came for this.
She starts thinking for a bit, and then she says, "My uncle had like a little figurine made of salt, rock salt. She can't make that."
That is true. Presume you're talking to the party, not to the Moon King.
I'm just kind of talking out loud.
Okay.
To the Moon King, I mean, this is probably...
Ambiguity.
Yeah, definitely don't ask yourself any questions aloud right now. That's not a good time for that. Not that you were doing that, but... So, just to clarify, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, but once I deliver the doll to your granddaughter, my task is complete.
Yes, that is our agreement. And you enhance the agreement stipulating you would receive an additional boon.
Excellent. Any amount of time that it takes for me to deliver the doll should suffice.
The Moon King looks over at the bard, and the bard rushes over and says, "Okay, he really doesn't understand time. He kind of thinks everything happens simultaneously. So you might be right, but while you haven't delivered it, he's not going to understand the interaction right. So probably better to do it sooner than later."
Got it.
Good news is, if you can get it done today, the Moon King can open portals and transport you anywhere in the world that you need to be.
Damn. Yeah. You can teleport me to her once I bring the doll here.
I mean, Moon King looks and the bard says, "Addendum, transport, not teleport." And the Moon King nods, says, "Yes."
Oh, perfect. Well, that makes that easier.
Mari says, "If we approach her with a thing, is she going to murder us all?"
That's a question.
The Moon King kind of looks like through the rock. He goes, "Huh. I don't think I can satisfy your request." the implication you get from that is the Moon King doesn't know, and therefore cannot give you the thing you asked for.
Mari says, "That's okay. I don't know lots of things."
The Moon King doesn't exactly engage with that, but just kind of nods.
Well, I think one thing we have on our side is the fact that we're kids. So maybe if we're lucky, that plays in our favor.
A statement. A present. A present should have a part of oneself into making it. Their feelings or something like that. So if you wish to have a gift from you, then you may wish to partake something into it yourself to make it personal.
The best gifts have sentimental value.
The Moon King takes that information and says, I have decided not to reward you for that, and I will reward her instead. I must be careful not to violate my agreement with her father.
Dude, we're just fucking up this poor woman's life. Like, we're just introducing crazy shit into her life.
I mean, her life's pretty fucked up as it is.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's not gonna get any better because of
What
us.
about what once we made a doll of the Moon King? Then you could technically be beside her, but not actually be there, violating your promise.
He doesn't see a distinction between like every time he talks to somebody, he gives up a piece of himself, right? So if he created this, it would be
Yeah, so technically, the doll or any of the things that he ended up creating out of that rock is technically something that he handcrafted for, or, so it would be a handcrafted gift from the Moon King.
Yeah, and when you ask for a piece of himself, he might literally reach into his chest and pull out an organ, because he can just regrow them.
She must accept the gift.
Yes, she must. She must. That is why you must choose a gift she will accept.
She is her own person with her own opinions and might not like the gift.
He cocks his head at the word might, like he doesn't really understand what it means.
Well, I think ultimately we just learned there that whatever gift we get, we need them to accept it. So that's going to be a tall order, possibly.
Mari had a really good idea, though.
Yeah.
And Wampy might be able to just make you some carved or some stone-shaped rock salt, as Wampy has a lot of frog-based stuff too. So getting into some of the salt water of the ocean you've been swimming around in, gather some salt together. That's one way to do it. There are salt carvers. You can find salt figurines. It'll be easier to find them in a dwarven place like Thordale than it will in Celebre, but Celebran market is vast.
Or a salt dagger.
Could do.
Water, I assume, is more plentiful back where we came from, not here.
Yeah, I mean, you literally live in a port town. Whereas here, Anui has used portal manipulations and ripped the fabric of reality to get a river flowing through, but it's not like a full-on river. It's more like a little creek.
Okay. Well, I mean, that seems like the best option then. Assuming the bard will help us with transport to and fro the moon.
The bard will help Inui to understand where you're trying to go, but the bard himself doesn't have the ability to transport. What the bard has been doing has been feeding cookies to wolves that have been praying to the Moon King, and the Moon King has answered their prayers by opening portals.
Ah, got it. Okay, cool.
So now that you're actually talking to the Moon King can just open portals.
So I think what we'll do, assuming the rest of the group wants to proceed with the salt plan, it sounds like we need to head back, unless anyone has anything else they'd like to ask them or talk to the Moon King about.
I don't know if I've missed something, but why do we think that she's accepted a gift of like salt carving?
Because of the life shaper, that she's a life shaper. I think Mari was mentioning that she's a life shaper and that maybe something that's made out of bio material.
Mars is it's dust, ash, salt, and vacuum. You can't really carve dust and ash statues. I guess
It's
you can make a vacuum statue, but
It's because she can't shape it. Like, she can't make it, right?
your options for making a doll are vacuum, dust, ash, or salt. I figured salt was the most feasible of those.
Well, technically, you have a marble with vacuum in it.
I do.
Quality 6, by the way, and that can be used in magical crafting. It has very interesting absence of sound properties. As because there's total vacuum in it, sound can't go through it. So you can use that in sonomancy construction.
Oh yeah, you can't get that up.
Yeah, you're going to need that.
I mean, it's just. I think the main idea was that she can't manipulate it, so it actually would be something tangible that wouldn't just be destroyed or created into something else if you gave it to her.
Well, wait, can't she can manipulate vacuum, salt, ash. She can't.
No, she can't. She's the other end of the.
All right.
Yeah, she can manipulate metal, steam, lightning, and light. But the other end of the spectrum, she has no access to.
All right.
I want to post a link to a picture of the elemental planes. I know there's some really good ones from the old Planescapes books, but it'll take me a while to find though.
Well, if Wampi's doing the crafting, salt is the only one Wampi can even have an argument towards being able to do.
Yeah, that was Mari's point. Salt was the only viable one of the anti-elementals.
In that case, maybe, so, to the Moon King, I'll say, we need to give your granddaughter a suitable gift that she will accept. That's going to require us crafting something back at home.
Where is home? And in this moment, you see that the stone above you just turns into glass. It's no great opening or anything. It's just it stops being opaque and becomes transparent, and you see the world, and then the world just gets frighteningly close. And he just looks up and says, "Where is home?"
Out of character, the temptation to say home is where the heart is so high right now.
But I love that. I forget. It was one of the Dungeon Keeper games had an advertisement that said, "Home is where the heart is, in a box, packed with salt."
Celebre? Oakbrine Inn, Celebre.
He says, "I know Celebre." And you start to get the sense that what you're seeing is not reality, because if it was, the city of Celebre would be covered in the shadow of the moon, as the window shows Celebre very close, but you still see sunlight shining on the city. It's still a little disturbing. Everybody who doesn't avert their eyes take another 3 composure damage.
I'm gonna argue that I learned my fucking lesson because I got 1 composure left, and I'm like, nope.
But somebody needs to point out where to go. So at least one person has to look at the horrifying, just reality warping effect and point to, to where in Celebre you would like to appear.
Henri could do it, but I would only have 1 composure left, so I don't know.
I mean,
Which is
I'll do
kind
it.
of what happens when you deal with the Moon King.
Yeah.
We'll just say I did it.
Okay.
That's acceptable.
The ceiling becomes opaque again, and a segment of reality, just sort of freestanding in the middle of the room, rips open like tattered cloth, threads flailing in an unseen wind, and on the other side of it, you see Celebre. And the Moon King floats through ahead of you. On the other side, you hear screams.
Yeah, it feels like more composure damage.
Not to you at the moment, but to the people on the other side, yeah.
Well, does he do that often?
The bard is probably shitting his pants right now.
The bard is shitting his pants and says, no, he hasn't left here for a long time.
Well, he must like his quote-unquote granddaughter a lot to go up there.
I don't think liking things is part of what he is, but yeah, we should go. We should go through. It says, watch your step. Don't let the little threads on the edge touch you. And he kind of hops through the portal, not wanting to risk touching the bottom of it. He holds out his arms on their side. It's like, jump through, I'll catch you.
Henri jumps.
Yeah, jumping.
Yep.
Cool. So one by one, you all jump through. You're back in Celebre. There's this rip in reality, and the Moon King is hovering a couple feet above the ground, and the chains that were coming out of his limbs and the back of his head, those chains are going up into the sky, and you see them going all the way to the moon. The rip in reality sews itself back together like a needle and thread, fixing the hole. And when the hole is patched up and reality is fully repaired, the Moon King turns his attention back to you guys. We are here. Where next?
We are here. Next, we head to the ocean. Wait, I assume that Wampy has the ability to get salt from the ocean.
Also, assuming there's like salt vendors or something as well on the probably there.
There are. Salt is used in a lot of culinary things, so there's that. You guys had that salt collector back in the Oakbrine Village.
Yeah, we should have gone there. Whoops.
We could.
But the thing is that with that,
Would have been less frightening for all the townsfolk.
Whoppy is probably capable of filtering water and salt out. But
We could go buy some, or acquire some.
But if Whoppy does that, because I have to tax myself, that I will, Whoppy will then make a worse salt thing, probably.
You also, instead of buying sea salt, you could buy quarried salt from the marketplace.
Which is like a block of salt.
Yes, salt that has been mined from a salt mine instead of refined from seawater. Yeah.
That'll be much better. It'll last longer, and just be better. It's like
Yeah, let's do that. That sounds good.
Alrighty, you find a salt vendor who has not fled from the floating horror. He mostly looks like a man. It's really just the cut in the chest with the eye that's really, and the chains going infinitely into the sky that are truly terrifying people. Otherwise, he looks like a guy just kind of out of shape, skinny, hasn't been eating anything, on the verge of starvation person floating through the air. All right. Yeah. The vendor quotes a price. The Moon King literally manifests gold out of the air.
Hell yeah. Is it exactly how much gold was requested?
No, it's way more than was requested.
Yeah, I knew it.
And it's not even in the form of coins. It's just like marbles of gold that he just kind of pours onto the desk.
Oh, Henri is trying to snatch up as much of that as he can.
All right, and you have a raw block of this. It's a little bit orange, but it is salt.
We could make a salt lamp.
You could.
Or even, I don't know how actually well it work is. I was thinking about is a salt music box.
I'm trying to think too of what would be something that this person would want to accept.
The Moon King, in this silence, ponders and asks a question and says, "Do you think she wants to harm me?"
She may. Humans tend not to like to have their souls ripped out of their bodies.
Pondering this, he thinks, "Okay." And he reaches into his chest and pulls out a little glowing thread. Says, "This is a piece of me. Light it on fire and place it within the salt structure, and it will burn forever, and she will always be destroying a little piece of me."
Nice. Metal. Yeah, is there any way Wompy could encase it basically? So that basically it's since she's not able to manipulate this material, although technically I guess you could break it, somehow entrap it within the salt? I think we literally might be creating a salt lamp now.
I mean, what? Like how? Like Whoppy knows that she is in prison, but I guess the question is how much of it does Whoppy understand as a child?
And that is up to you.
I think Whoppy interprets what she would want is freedom and wants to make a totem of freedom as part of this. I can absolutely encase that is a part of it.
Oh, that's pretty.
Yeah. All right, let's see what Whoppy's role is for this. Whoppy is, I guess, inventing salt shape as a druidic ability.
Yeah, I mean, it's an aspect of nature that's that can be druidic. You can also use your solipsism.
I could. I have less solipsism than I have druidism.
This isn't far enough outside of druidism that I would say you can't use it. I think this is within what druids could manipulate. It's not something you're trained in, for sure.
It's not. I am using it. Actually. Alright.
But it's also not like salt hasn't been an important part of your druidic path. Like, you first learned how to swim like a frog when you were making and repairing a salt maker.
So I'm thinking. There's no way I could use both if I could narrate how it would work. Like, I'd be using salt and solipsism. I'd basically want to weave the magics together as part of this. This is actually something I've been working on with Whoppy, is that Whoppy eventually wants to be able to weave the natural world with, like, this physical created world. So that is a question if I can potentially use both.
It's an interesting blend, all right? Druidism is very much about philosophy, and so is solipsism. Go ahead and do it for now, and I think what we might end up doing is we might end up collapsing the two into one single potential. We'll call it the Way of Whompy.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Got dice. And can I add pips for my hammer? Because I assume that my hammer can be useful in this. Because it is a hammer after all, and I could maybe use it to shave edges or something. It's part of weaving it. Just want to see.
I really can't, like, a hammer would be great for breaking it.
It would be. Okay. All right.
Do you have a...
It's also a warhammer type of thing.
Yeah, it's not really a chiseling
All
kind
right.
of hammer.
Is there anything else I get pips from? I really don't think so. And when I use a potential, when I'm using a trait, I'm adding an aptitude to my potential, right? Or do I?
If you're using a trait, you are adding an aptitude and a skill to your potential.
Oh, okay.
So, like,
I
probably
should.
artistry, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Because I am does not accept limits unabashed. Both of those, I think, very much apply here. Because I am all right. In that case, that's just 9 dice, which I rolled perfectly average.
All right. I mean, you've made a quality 4 something. Go ahead and describe what you've made.
It's supposed. So I've taken the little burning thread. I've encased it inside. It's not quite a window.
Your mic cut out there.
Alas, the live it kind of shows the silhouette of what's being burned inside, and it also I'm using the light to kind of show silhouette like this. Basically, there's a broken chain that's supposed to represent freedom. Like it's all like kind of carved out, so I'll put this is pretty heavy, so you can see the silhouette through the light, and there's like what's supposed to be like little like what looks like leaves almost like floating in the breeze, and is that
Cut off the
God
road, essentially. Yeah.
it's essentially supposed to symbolize something that's like just a free, like you're free to be whoever you want to be in this life. You do, you know, you can burn your like prior self kind of weird thing. It's really complicated to describe what she once was, but you could be your free self. You don't have to answer to the Moon King. You don't have to answer to anybody. And just yeah,
Beautiful sentiments. And then just like in terms of literal shape, what is it?
it's a light. It's supposed to be like a salt light. It's
So just
Wings
basically
can
glow.
represent freedom. You know,
yeah.
I like the broken chains thing. Maybe there's
broken
like
chains, yeah.
a chain carving around it where it's like broken.
Well, the idea was actually that it would like show out a silhouette of that freedom. So
Ooh.
it's kind of like just an orb with the salt being carved in such a way inside that
Like those pumpkins where they don't cut all the way through, they just carve the inside so it glows.
yeah, that's sort of what
Okay.
I'm going for here, and I'm using the light of the burning thread. So it's actually just an orb, but with but it's always burning, and it's always displaying the light against a wall or something. If you could see all of the different symbolism inside.
Awesome. All right, you have made it. For your final journey, the Moon King will not be going with you, but he will open the portal to where she is. Are you ready to go through the portal?
Ready or not, here we come.
I don't think we have any other option.
Well, Andre can go alone. You guys don't have to go with him. You also can completely bail on this whole thing in terror. But in the middle of the marketplace, the Moon King rips reality open again, and a portal to a lush forest where a single giant tree is dominating the space opens.
So Henri is hell bent on going because he would love to not owe the Moon King anything any longer, if at all possible. So
Actually, as a quick thing, could I swap my year of not hurting me to have Miss Mabel come with us?
You may, if you would like Miss Mabel to come with you. Yeah.
All right.
Miss Mabel is a little shocked and concerned that an eldritch being is accompanying the children. That was not part of what was explained to her, but she knows better than to comment on it in the Moon King's presence, and she hops through the portal with you. How many people are going through this portal? Is it everybody?
I mean, we might as well stick together.
Yeah.
All right, that's one.
Yeah, sure.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Three.
sure. We're all going through.
Okay, everybody goes through, and Miss Mabel. And the portal remains open for you guys to get back again. The Moon King's not gonna screw you over like that and leave you miles from home. But yeah, you're here, and walking around to the other side of the giant tree, you see this woman in sort of a plain white frock, decorated with vines that she's grown, and flowers in her hair. You can see, like, there looks like footsteps in the ground where she's been pacing that have grown and blossomed into little flowers. There's some stones she's been sitting on that have turned to gold. But right now she's over at the tree, kind of like hugging it and stroking it and talking to it. And Miss Mabel kind of leans down and says, this tree is Pelladia. And so she walks up to the tree and starts communing with the tree herself. She puts her hand on it, closes her eyes, and communes with Pelladia. Seems like they're talking about like how much she's done and how her progress has gone since Pelladia gave her the mission to establish her orphanage. Meanwhile, the rest of you are free to approach. Her name is Ilya?
Isabel.
Isabel, sorry.
And at least historically, she doesn't really talk so far. So, if you wish her to speak, these will be the first words she's spoken.
We'll see.
All right. So I guess it probably makes sense for Henri to approach since this is his task to complete. So Henri has the salt sculpture in his hand.
Henri, I'm going to give you a choice. You can present the sculpture using performance or propriety. And your aptitude will 100% be empathy.
All right. Well, no matter what, I have 0 in either of those, so definitely going to have to go with empathy. I'm also...
and then add 4 dice for the quality that Wampy crafted.
Nice. Also, just a little retro. He took off the Moon King costume.
Okay.
For this, knowing the history that they have, and left that back at home. Cool. Let me see. Is there anything else? Okay, so I'll go ahead and make the roll. I mean, I guess I'll make the roll and then we'll figure out what happened.
That should have been 5 dice, I think.
Oh, god damn it. I thought the Q4 added pips.
Normally items would, but in this case, you are giving it as a gift. So you're not using the item, you're presenting the item. Okay. She does not speak, but she does smile as she accepts the gift. Are you going to explain anything about what the gift is to her?
She's accepting the gift?
Yes, she takes it from you. What do you say?
I'm a little bit worried about saying anything because she has accepted the gift. But I guess maybe officially my task is complete. So now, no matter what I say, everything's fine. Even if she like throws the gift on the ground, is like, fuck that guy.
As long as she doesn't incinerate us.
It wouldn't be incineration. She would, make your muscles grow until you explode or something.
Ooh, that sounds like it might be a little interesting at the start and then become horrifying.
Biokinetics, when they attack, it is pretty horrifying.
I think what I'll do is I'm not going to mention the Moon King just because that might be triggering. And so what I'll say is, I know you've been through a lot. I'm glad to see that you're here with Peladia. Enjoy your gift.
All right. You have not said anything that triggers her, so she smiles, accepts the gift, and returns to communing with Peladia. By the time you get back, Miss Mabel has finished and is smiling and is very pleased with herself.
And I'm sure she's happy she got included.
She is.
Peladia.
She's very happy. She's also very happy that Peladia is not mad about what happened to Sappers.
Does
Peladia keep an eye on her own children?
Speaking of that, can Wappy commune with Peladia while we're here?
Yes, you can. Communing with Peladia is not really a druid role for Wampy. Not because you're incapable, but because it's unnecessary. Peladia is a sentient and very powerful druid. She was not always a tree. She was a half-elf for most of her life. And so, yeah, she is able to commune with you without any role necessary. You just place your hand against the bark, and you can feel her presence, and yeah, you can talk.
All right. Yeah. Well, Wappy's going to introduce themselves as being in Miss Mabel's care and the one who kind of released Sappers. And not apologize, but say that it was the best decision Wappy could make.
Peladia's voice flows through the bark into your hand. You feel it sort of like a river, but a gentle river, kind of tinkling with the sound of dew falling and icicles and that sort of natural reverberation in your head. And she says, Sappers was not always a good person. I think Sappers is receiving a just end. And then she changes the subject and says, be a good druid, Wampy. Nature gives great gifts, but nature also needs to be cared for. Do not be a servant of nature, but be its tender.
Whoppy replies and says, Whoppy will do Whoppy's best. And then thanks Peladia for, because Peladia is partially responsible for the orphanage's creation. So, a little bit of thank you for the orphanage. Okay, thank
Of course, she's a tree, so she can't smile, but you hear a
Yeah.
sound that sounds like a smile. And, and you break contact, and I believe everybody heads back through the portal. The Moon King thanks you and says to Andre, says, now for your reward. I present to you a choice. That is your reward, to be able to choose. A powerful reward. Very few can choose. Much of the universe is fate. Linear, progressing. But to you I offer a true choice. I can give you power, or you can take power. Which do you choose? And Anui holds out his chain to your hand.
Is he expecting me to hold his chain?
Yes. When you do you want to push some of your own energy into the chain and receive a gift? Or do you want to pull energy out of the chain and become bound to Anui? If you push energy into the chain, you will learn the secrets you need to become an Eldritch Binder. If you take energy from the chain, you will essentially become a Warlock of Anui, and you'll gain powers that I have put into the Private Club's document for you to take a quick look at.
Looking. I feel like I have to go this route. So I will. So the choice is if I give.
If you give
powers?
If you give some of your own energy into the chain, then Anui will gift you with essentially a catalyst that lets you start down the path to becoming an Eldritch Binder. That'll be just your own thing. You can start learning how to capture creatures and it's kind of like what Kite did. You can capture spirits and learn how to bind them to your will. Alternatively, you can take power from the chain, and this will become your new training regimen with the Moon King, where you'll have access to literally any skill or aptitude training you want, but it's 3 dice of composure tax every time you learn something. Access to the Eldritch Talents, and Anui will give you access to Anui's spell list, which is the druidic spells of Anui's Gaze, Anui's Touch, and Anui's Embrace. You're essentially becoming a warlock, and Anui is your patron.
Yeah, I'm definitely going that route. Also, I just feel like Henri, he's a criminal, so I feel like he's more about taking than giving. So it's very fitting.
All right. You take your gift. It's worth noting that Anui does not have any first circle abilities. Nothing this creature does is so small.
Cool.
Also, for reference, Inui's Touch is the spell that created Sappers. Inui's Gaze is essentially true sight. You can just X-ray vision see through things and know what's real and what isn't. Inui's Embrace has never been cast before. In the entire history of Talus, no one knows what it does. Inui's Touch is supposed to be kind of like mending, or alteration or transmutation. It's not super clear. Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
And these spells will behave differently every time you cast them. Except Inui's Gaze actually is pretty consistent, but the other ones are radically situationally dependent in what their effects are.
So how long before you learn Inui's Embrace so you can immediately cast it?
Just to see what it does. Pelladia knew these spells. I guess technically still knows them, but she doesn't call upon Inui for power anymore. Cool, and that concludes. You guys go back. Miss Mabel's super happy that she got to meet Pelladia, and is just she's on cloud nine for the rest of the day, and kind of forgets the fact that you kids were exposed to an eldritch horror from beyond time and space. And yeah, I think that brings us to a close for tonight. Did anybody have any questions about what's going on, what your power-ups were?
Nope, this was pretty cool, man. It's always nice to see the Moon King.
Yeah.
Not for our characters, but you know. I'm gonna take a while to recover that 3 fucking composure damage.
Yeah. Yeah, dealing with eldritch creatures is quite a hassle, but yeah. Sometimes it's worth it. And in this case, like the whole thing about the dream was just Inui just wanted to. It's like, here's my daughter, or granddaughter. This is sort of the history. He tried to present it as best he could. The wolves, by the way, 2 of those are Leviathan's pet dogs.
Ooh.
Yeah, that part never really got super drilled into, but so the 3 wolves there, the baby that he put the soul into was a chaos child, born with the power of Kaileron, and that power Inui identified as a contagion. He didn't like it. It's non-causal energy, and Inui thinks of non-causal energy as super dangerous. So he dispelled it out of the baby, and that energy entered into the wolves. One of those wolves attacked Reyna, who was also a Chaos Child, and Reyna killed the wolf and absorbed its power. The other 2 wolves went and found Violithan and became his loyal pets. So that's the tie-in there.
Nice. The Moon King with the farmer smoking a cigar scene is a lot more cryptic, knowing that he basically just soul swapped his baby, and then he had nothing. He couldn't do anything about it, basically.
Yeah, so there was also some other stuff going on too. The powers that she had, that the baby had, were fire related. The baby was overheating and basically running a fever because it had pyrokinetic abilities that were completely uncontrolled. The farmer was worried that the baby was going to die, and when Inui approached him, Inui said, "I can fix that." The farmer actually was relieved. Until they sat down and shared a cigar with the child's life being saved, and Nui explained what had actually happened. And that's when the farmer freaked out and was like, "Are you going to come back and kill my daughter?" And Inui made the promise, like, "I will not interfere with her until she stands upon my doorstep."
Hmm.
His doorstep being the moon gates, basically. If she goes to a moon gate, then his promise is fulfilled and he'll interact with her again.
So there was a point where the Moon King dropped a bunch of gold and Henri went to pick it up. But I wonder if, like, that was a good thing, because technically, is that taking something from the Moon King? And I also get that, like, you know,
Technically, it's taking something from that merchant.
okay.
Yeah. So if you would like to make like a little crime roll, you can see how many of those you pocket.
Yeah, let's do that. I only wanted to do it if it didn't count as taking something from the Moon King.
Would Henri have thought that it counts as taking something from the Moon King?
I think, like, the way he was thinking about it, he immediately saw it and wanted to snatch it up, like, but wasn't thinking too much. But I also was thinking that, like, the Moon King was kind of just like, you know, whatever, you know, like when he just threw a bunch of money and was like, whatever, here you go. Like, didn't really, at that point, it wasn't in the Moon King's possession. So it's not necessarily taking it from him. But yeah.
Yeah, make a crime plus agility, and however many dice or however many successes you get, just add those as coins. I'm going to assume that you just sell or trade the gold marbles for coins pretty quickly, unless you just want to actually keep the gold marbles. It's essentially casting grain. Inui has a stockpile of precious metals from his dealings with the dwarves.
I think I'll convert it to coin money, just because while it might be interesting to save it, the money can be used for, like, improving rolls and stuff, which might be useful.
Yeah. It's not in any way magical. It's just gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, that reminds me. At some point, I need to go check out to see how my patent is doing.
Your what?
My patent on my magic
yeah.
hands.
Yeah, after the campaign, I have like a post campaign thing for your patent. As we do the credits roll, and you're like, and here's what happened to them years later. But we'll get to that. Alrighty, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording and get some sleep.
How many coins does that roll get me?
How many successes did you get?
3?
3.
Is that valuable coins?
Yes.
Yeah, it's amazing because this all ties up, because now that Miss Mabel is super happy and joyous, we can she'll be easier to spy on her that night.
Indeed. Alrighty, I'm gonna stop the recording and we'll pick up again. Fingers crossed. No more illnesses next week.
Yeah. Good session.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.